Hello, everyone. This is your girl, Midas Touch Baby. I hope everyone is having a great day and your work week was fantastic. And for all of you who celebrate Palm Sunday, happy Palm Sunday. And I would like to say to everyone, to my new subscribers, thank you for subscribing to the channel. If you're on the fence about subscribing to the channel, watch a couple of videos and subscribe. Leave comments. I would love to hear what you have to say, but let's please be respectful to one another and to me. And without further ado, we're going to talk about Quiet on Set, the full review of all four episodes. And I hope I don't forget anything because I took notes. And if I did, I apologize and correct me below if I'm wrong. Just be mindful that we are talking about things that really happened to these young people between the ages of 8 and 15 years old. Okay? So, we're going to talk about Diane Schreiner, who's on the top right hand with the red shirt under, and his writing partner, Mike Robbins, I believe. They used to be on a TV show from the 1980s to the 90s called Head of the Class. And it was a very good TV show, and I enjoyed both of their characters. After the show ended, they decided to create their own show and shop it to different networks, and one of the networks was Nickelodeon. Dan Schreiner had actually created Kid Danger, Keenan and Kel, All That, iCarly, Amanda Show, Sam and Cat, Zoe 101, Drake and Josh, Victorious, Hearing Danger, Game Changers, Danger Force, Guys Like Us, and What I Like About You. The last two was on other networks, but the rest of the list all came through Nickelodeon. So he was known what I would like to call the king of Nickelodeon and the king of children's television at that time. Dan had very strange work ethics, but we're going to talk about that later on in the video. Let's focus on what he did there. And the first one we're going to be talking about is Katrina Johnson. Katrina Johnson started on the original All That show that was created by Dan and Mike Robbins. Katrina was the Amanda Bynes before there were ever Amanda Bynes. She was very talented. She had charisma about her, great comedic timing, and she was also known as Dan's favorite. And when you're known as Dan's favorite, baby, can't nobody touch you. And if Dan liked you, it was it. So she had his ear. Do you know that she had created characters based on her ideas with Dan? And that's what I call wonderful. And one of the characters that she did create was based on presidential candidate at that time named Ross Perot. You don't know him? Look him up. Well, the producers called her one day at home during the time when she was hitting puberty, and they spoke to her parents and told her parents that, you know, Katrina's getting fat, and that's devastating for any child to hear, whether it's a girl or a boy. But she heard it, and they said, "Well, we already got her in dance classes, and we don't know what else to do with her. She's getting fat." The girl is going through changes. She's going through, puberty, and she's growing up. She's becoming a teenager. So I think that was really crude and insensitive for the producers to say that to her parents about a girl who's developing her body just like boys are. So that wasn't even the devastating part. The devastating part is when they told her she can't be the fat kid. We already got a fat kid. So it can't be two fat kids in the show. What the hell? But they said it to her parents and it got back to her. And that was kind of mean and cruel and insensitive. But I'm going to let that go because there's so much to talk about. So as she started getting older, she started going to the Laugh Factory out in California, which they had, youth nights when the kids can actually speak and not speak, but perform comedy routines. And she was very good that night. But there was something else in the wind, baby. She had went and told Dan Schreiner about a young girl, 10 years old, named Amanda Bynes. Why did she do that and jammed up herself? But you know what? She was a thoughtful person. They saw Amanda's routine, and Dan Schreiner fell in love with her immediately. That left our girl Katrina out in the dark. Katrina was out there like, how am I gonna make it? They gave Amanda Bynes her first role on all that. And guess what? She became Dan's favorite at the time. Now there was times when they was, the kids gotta be on set and doing their homework and going to school. Not Amanda Bynes. Amanda's father was there on set. He was so busy in everybody else's business. This man left his daughter to be alone with Dan Schreiner. And eventually, as she got older, she got the Amanda show. But why was your child, a minor, left in the office with Dan Schreiner? They dropped the ball with her. Me personally, that's what I said. But Amanda Bynes was funny. And she was, to me, that generation Lucille Ball. And I loved her all that because I'm much older than the kids who watched it at the time, but I did have a younger sibling, and I used to watch it with her because I thought this girl was funny. I said, "Man, this girl is a funny kid," and I can understand why Dan Schreiner was the king of the Nickelodeon because Dan he hit a score with her, but Amanda was a hot commodity, and I just don't understand for the life of me how did they let her go so far. Well, do you know, honey, when Amanda became a teenager, 16 years old, Amanda was like, look, I had enough of this mess right here. I want that to be free. So she tried to become emancipated from her parents. All hell broke loose. The cops was brought into it because she ended up going to Dan's house, Dan Schreiner's house. And you see Dan Schreiner sitting here looking like a little pervert in a hot tub with a child. I ain't the only one who said it. This is on the ID channel. Look at y'all. Y'all done took a picture of it. See? That look weird to me, but that's weird energy, weird vibes. I'm gonna leave it alone. So he tried to help her become emancipated from her parents. The judge said, "Oh no, this ain't gonna work with him." The judge threw it out, and I'm glad the judge threw it out because when have you ever heard of a show creator, producer, or manager say, "We gonna help you get away from your parents"? I never heard it before. And let me know, have you guys ever heard it? And how would you feel if you have children, right? And your kids is in show business or whatever and gonna want to become emancipated. And this is the person who's gonna help them, the person who produced the show. No, ain't nobody gonna tell me they ain't gonna feel wrong, feel kind of crazy about that. And you know what? And you should. And as she started getting older, they started catching images like that. And you know what kills me? What kills me is that other people who work at Nickelodeon on the set saw Amanda giving him massages, rubbing his back, being super affectionate with him. Ain't nobody open their mouth, not one adult. Try to keep their job. Now let's go on to Raquel from the Amanda Show. Hey Raquel, girl, you're looking good, and Raquel's having another baby. She's looking great. So Raquel, on her 13th birthday, this was something that triggered her. On her 13th birthday, she got a birthday cake, and they surprised her. It was a very large birthday cake. Big bad Dan Schreiner, overgrown man, got mad and said, "Why did y'all give her that cake? She ain't supposed to have that cake. That cake too big." Because he was so busy at that time showing favoritism to Amanda Bynes. And he felt like it was taking away attention from Amanda Bynes, as it should. It was the girl birthday, and Amanda was there for the girl birthday. They got a picture of it. I don't have the picture posted, but they got a picture of Amanda right there looking at it and whatever. But you know what? It is what it is. And Raquel did say, if you did not make Dan happy or keep him satisfied, you was out of a job. And she was saying, like so many other people said, people was afraid of Dan. Dan was nobody to play with, okay? He was bipolar in a sense. One minute he's happy, next minute he not happy. One minute he like your work, next minute he's clowning you. It was a toxic work environment. And the parents was there. Now I want to clarify something to all you who believe that the parents should have did more. The parents did what they could do. Okay? I want y'all to know during that time when Amanda Bynes was up there and the Amanda Bynes show, parents was not allowed on set. And that's not the law. Nickelodeon had their own law. and they did their own thing. And Raquel's mother was a good mother. Hey, Miss Pam. Miss Pam was very supportive. She was there for her child. But she said she was so nervous because she didn't want to ruin that opportunity for Raquel. So a lot of things she kept to herself. But she just didn't want to ruin Raquel's chance in Hollywood because she know that was her daughter's passion and her dream. Now I know a lot of people, even I had said when I first saw the video the first time, I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I think I would have went off." But then when I thought about it overnight and watching it again and thought about it for the last couple of days because this video, this documentary really triggered me because at a later date I will tell you why I feel the way I feel about stuff like this. I can understand why her mother kept quiet, and it was hard, and it was just too much for a lot of parents. So, all that went through a lot of changes and such a horrible toxic work environment because of Dan Schreiner. And I have a bone to pick with all the people who was in charge, the people above him. Y'all let this man do whatever he wants, whatever he want to these kids. These kids went through mental abuse. Some of these kids are so traumatized, they left Hollywood. Let's talk about how he messed them up. And let me tell y'all something. All these kids they interviewed are in some kind of doggone therapy because of the abuse they went through, the verbal and mental abuse, and some physical and some sexual. Mm, Lord, let me get it together. And I just want y'all to know I'm upset because this is not what a child's supposed to go through. No child's supposed to go through the things that they went through with Dan Schreiner. Dan Schreiner was a tyrant, not only to the kids, but to the women. And he got away with so much stuff. But you know what? It wasn't all bad for the kids. I must say that because they had good people that was able to be there. Dan Schreiner ended up following Amanda to the CW, or was it? It was a WB. Now it's a CW, and he ended up following her and created this show called What I Like About You. And that was a good show because it had Jenny Garth in it from 90210, and she played her older sister. So Dan was up there, but you know what? Dan had a problem with Will Calhoun. Will Calhoun was like, "Oh no, you're not going to come up in here and do the things that you did over there in Nickelodeon." So he had a hard time. So Dan ended up only being there in credit only. The CWWB wasn't playing with him. And you think about that. You think about that. If the CW/WB did not play with him doing what he did for all those times, how did he get away with it for so long at Nickelodeon? Because Nickelodeon knew what was going on, and they didn't care because they only cared about the money. They didn't care about these kids. And Amanda Schreiner daddy right there, Amanda Bynes daddy there. Amanda Bynes daddy, they said, had her like a wind up doll when she was a child. They said he had her doing so many things and had her so responsible and had her so stressed out. She wasn't able to be a child. And I want you to know that they did contact Amanda Bynes to be on the show, and she turned it down. And maybe it's for the best because Amanda Bynes, after everything ended throughout the years, she really has gone through some things. And as a person who really admire her comedy and her personality on screen and see the great things that she was able to do and pull out of thin air, I was really saddened by a lot of things that she went through in her personal life. So let's go on to Giovanni. Giovanni has said that when she was on All That, she felt like she was a token black girl. And you know what? If you go back and look at the episodes, she was. She was a token black girl. And she went through some things too. You know, honey, it was the mind games of it all. It was the mind games that her and some of the other non-white non-white children went through and they got away with it. Giovanni had said some things about how it was a weird and off-putting environment. She had fun with the kids, and at times that they was scared because of how Dan acted. How did Nickelodeon for the and Viacom, you own Nickelodeon. How did they get away with making these kids feel? And just like all the other kids, she said, you knew who Dan's favorites were, and she knew it wasn't her. She said it left her with low self esteem, low self worth. She's in therapy as an adult now, and she went through some things, just witnessing on how they were spoken to. And did you know, like, they used to do these little challenges where they put spiders on you and things like that. And it was hard because she went through it, and she said they put you in situations where everything was like real scary for you. And like a fear factor thing, like the old TV show Fear Factor. And it wasn't a great experience for her all the time. But she did do the best she could. And she said what kept her going is that she used to do Bible study there with one of the other girls. And that's what gave her peace in that environment. The child had to cling on and hold on to her religious belief in order to make it through sometimes. And that was sad. Brian Hearn. Brian Hearn was also on all that. He said that they stayed later, and they broke child labor laws. He said Dan was nicer to the white children. He was told that his costume for Little Feeders, one of the producers said, you should make him charcoal. His costume, make him charcoal. And that left him with a complex about his complexion. But you know what? Thank God for Brian's mother. Brian's mother opened her mouth. She was like, y'all not playing with this one. He said that it got to the point that he was afraid to tell his mother certain things because it hurt him so bad because he didn't want her to be who she is, which was popping off. So he didn't even tell his mother at the time how they made jokes about his complexion. And do you know, after everything, for the third season, they didn't bring Brian back. Brian got fired. And the mother says she believed it was because of her that Brian got fired. And she blamed herself. But she said after everything that came through and that everything that happened there, she said she thanked God that she protected her son. To this day, Brian and his mother are not speaking. And that's kind of hard to hear because he had a good mother. And this is another child. Lord, I forgot his name. Give me a minute, everybody. I misplaced his name. But he played a character called Nose Guy. And his name is Leon Fraser, I believe. He played Captain Big Nose. And he said the one thing he hated was the leotards that they made him wear for different roles that he played. Now, get this crap right here. This right here. The stuff they had him playing, it was a penis, y'all. But we're going to go past that for a quick second. I want y'all to look at this animal right here. This animal was one of the PA assistants. I should do a whole video on him because you know what? I don't think I got enough time to rip into him. Jason Michael Handy. You know what? We're going to talk about him. Jason Michael Handy is a creep. He's a child molester and a creep. Okay? This animal was arrested later on, but he used to send videos to children, to little girls. This animal, Jason. Jason was an animal. Jason had did horrific things. Do you know he got arrested? He was a production assistant and walked around with the children without the parents' permission. Jason went as far as to send an email to 11-year-old Brandy, who was on the Amanda Show, who left Hollywood after what he did. At first, it started real nice, everybody. It was very friendly, even so friendly that even her mom read the emails. And the reason why he sent emails was because he's a production assistant. His job was to let them know when call time and everything was. Fine. That creep sent an email to this little child, 11 years old, y'all. Notice I said 11, of him touching himself and said, I was thinking of you. And her poor mother feels so guilty because her mother's mother used to work at MGM as a legal assistant. And her grandmother, never wanted her mother and uncle to work for Hollywood. But the mother was like, she couldn't pass up the opportunity because she know that her daughter would do well in it. But never did she think she was putting her daughter in harm's way. That creepazoid, Jason Michael Handy, tried to mess with her daughter. And she said she was so torn between contacting the lawyers or not, and contacted the police or not, because she said she blamed herself for putting her daughter in that situation. And she just felt guilty, everybody. And when she first said it, I got so mad. But then I understood, and I'm trying not to judge her. But this is the child molester here, Jason Michael Handy, that animal. Let me tell y'all what he did. He got arrested in 2003, y'all, for over 10,000 images of children. Okay, 1,768 images of girls in S explicit position. 238. I mean, 1768 younger children in erotic poses, meaning the little girls. 238 in S explicit poses. Two girls in B bondage. Trying, I don't know if I can say it on YouTube or not. He had one of the CDs and had minors and S explicit conduct. He had Ziploc bags with girls' names and tokens inside of it. Ziploc bag of 11-year-old Brandy with letters that he wrote to her, and she wrote to him. Her letters was innocent, but this guy was a sicko. He had a Ziploc of 7-year girl underwear. Some of the parents did not want their children to be involved in his case, didn't want to bring attention to it because they didn't want their kids to miss the opportunity in Hollywood or be re-traumatized. This animal here had journals saying he was a pedophile and he struggled to R a little girl. And I want y'all to know, he only got 6 years in prison. He's currently in Fed time. That's what they said, right? That's what they said. But I want y'all to know one thing. This is who they hired to watch after children in Hollywood. This type of behavior, this type of animal. And I'm calling you an animal because you are. You are animal. And then he got in trouble with messing with a little girl at cousin's child, a little girl on cousin Skeeter. She was a guest host. He kissed her in her house because he got invited to the house. Because I'm telling you, he's a pedophile and he groomed the parents. He fooled the parents. Came into the little girl house, went to the little girl house to go play video games in the girl room, and he tried to tongue kiss her. And he only got 6 years with a miscarriage of justice. And a couple of months later, another creep got arrested after him. But how? How the law's not changing for SA victims, for children, sex traffickers? Why these laws are not stricter for creeps like him? Because you know what, ladies and gentlemen, he's going to come back out into society. And he has a sickness. He's going to be looking at somebody else's little girl. This man here has journals. This little man here, this little animal, this little creature, he had horrible things in his house. He had videos of bondage of children. You look at his face. He fooled them. People had loved him on set because he came off as a real nice guy from next door. Real nice and friendly. And you know what's so crazy about this animal? He got his victims by knowing what they like. He studied them. And you know what? Thank God Giovanni didn't get attacked or hurt by him or touched because he used to do prayer study, prayer group with Giovanni. And he wrote in Giovanni's, yearbook and whatever, telling her to keep being good and doing the right thing. Meanwhile, he was a whole creepazoid. And I know this part of the video is long, but I want y'all to pay attention to your children and the people in your lives. And if you happen to be looking at my video, you creep, know that we all know that you are a sick animal. And if there's anybody else looking at my video that's thinking about it, you're nasty and get help. And look at this creep. A few months later, after that person, Jason Handy, got arrested, Mr. Pickle Man got arrested. You know him, Brian Peck. Pickle Boy. He was Pickle Boy. Let me tell y'all, when I used to watch this thing with my younger sibling, I was so mad because I don't understand. I said, who is Pickle Boy? And when I saw those pickles and the things they did with them pickles and how they had those kids eating that stuff, let me tell you something. The producers and every adult that has something to do with that show, y'all are sick ass animals. Excuse me for going off, y'all, on a Sunday. Let me calm down. Now, let me stay ramped up because y'all gonna like this video. I hope y'all like it. Hope you hit the like button to share because I'm really tight. I'm really angry. If I could, I'd grab my Bible and just start beating them with it. So anyway, so he had they call him Pickle Boy on the show. He was an actor and he was a acting coach. Nasty tail Brian Peck. Brian Peck has went and they made sure that the pickles resembled penises. All the kids had loved Brian. Everyone was at Brian's home one day for a barbecue. Parents and kids. Now, let me tell you how sicky this sicko is. Guess who he was friends with? You guessed it. John Wayne Gacy. You know him? The serial murder. I think he killed over 28 boys' bodies that they found in the basement of his home. Yeah, him, John Wayne Gacy. He had dressed up as a clown. John Wayne Gacy is sick. What the heck is Brian Peck doing talking to him? Oh, why is he talking to him? Because Brian Peck is an animal. He's just as sick. And Hollywood, you are dirty because y'all rehired him and y'all let him work on Disney Network. But they're going to say, no, we didn't have any control over him being hired. So who controlled it, producers? It wasn't an HR, so HR wasn't doing their work and due diligence. So Brian Peck had the barbecue. Brian Peck was so happy to share with everyone there about his connection to John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy sent him a picture of himself, an oil painting. This sick ass Brian Peck kept the letters from John Wayne Gacy, one of America's most notorious murderers, serial murderers. His sick self. He had buried all those young missing men and boys under the basement of his house. This was Pickle Boy's infatuation. Thank God Giovanni is safe from that. But she is having a hard time because she said when Brian got arrested and they was told, do you know they was brought into a room. The attorneys came to a table reading and told them that Brian got arrested. They told the parents to leave the room while they talked to the children. Nickelodeon, y'all dropped the ball. The parents should have been right there when y'all told them. Matter of fact, you should have told the parents first and told the kids because the kids knew this man. And they were supposed to make sure nothing happened to him. And when they told the kids that this happened, they said that he got arrested, what he got arrested for, but they did not know who did they talk to. Who was a child involved. Do you know after everything happened, you drop a bomb like that about a man who was so close to the proximity of the children, and they was at his house and had barbecue and everything like that. Y'all didn't offer them no counseling. These children had no counseling was offered to them. They went right back to work. He said, "Let's go back to work. Let's go finish, filming." His victim, who went through torture. Oh, Giovanni, God was covering you, girl. The Lord was covering Giovanni. That's all I can tell you, because this man here is a sicko. But one person he couldn't fool, Joe Bell. Joe Bell was a real parent too now. Joe Bell was there. Joe Bell kept saying there's something off about Brian Peck. Joe Bell noticed that Brian Peck was a little bit touchy feely with some of the boys. And he saw a video of him touching Leonardo DiCaprio on the arm and rubbing his back when he was on Growing Pains. And he said, "You know what? That's the same way he touched my son." And who's his son? Drake Bell. Joe Bell was like, I'm not liking this. So, Joe Bell and Drake's mom had got divorced and everything. And at one point, Brian Peck, the manipulator, the horrible, ratchet human being that he is, he went to Drake Bell's mama and lied and said nobody wanted Joe Bell, the daddy, on set. And it'll be best if he was no longer on set. He did that because he knew the only way he can get his victim was to get rid of this protector. So he lied. And the one thing the father did tell the mother, he said it hurt him when he couldn't manage his son anymore. He said he cried because him and his son has a close relationship. And he loved his son. He loved being there to protect his son. Do you know that he told the mother, make sure that Brian Peck is not left alone with our son? She didn't listen, y'all. She was letting Brian Peck take that boy to and from rehearsals and everything. And let me tell y'all something, how sick Brian Peck was. Brian Peck knew how to get his victims. Did you know when Drake Bell was doing shows for his rock band, Brian Peck and his grown tail friends was following this boy at every gig. The boy would go on stage performing and come out. And who was there? Brian Peck in the audience. He didn't even know Brian was coming. He had no idea about Brian showing up. But let me tell you something, Drake, you're a courageous soul. You're brave. You've been through some things after everything happened. And I wish that you would have received counseling too. He never got counseling. You know, I hope you learn that you can't handle this by yourself. And maybe he has a hard time trusting people. Hell, I would too. I wouldn't have a hard time. I wouldn't want to tell nobody nothing no more because he went through something traumatic. He said the things that this animal did to him is 100 times worse than you can imagine what he did to him. He was asleep, everybody, when he was SA'd. He woke up to Brian Peck over him. He couldn't even tell his mama about what this animal did to him repeatedly. Drake Bell was the victim. And there are people out there who making dumb videos saying he could have did something about it. What could he have done? He was a 15-year-old boy that was a grown man who was stronger. This man trapped him. This boy couldn't get home. This man would call the mother and say, "Oh, I'm not going to drive him home tonight. I'll drop him off in the morning." And the first time, the mom was like, "Okay." Nothing happened. Nothing happened the second time. Nothing happened the third time. But that one night, while this 15-year-old child was sleeping on the couch like he normally is, he went through a gruesome thing. And the things that he went through, I can't even tell you on YouTube. Nobody is supposed to go through that. No one's supposed to go through what this child went through. He went through hell. And his parents, I'm so sorry that they went through it, what they went through. Because can you picture what it's like as a parent to hear that your child went through abuse by somebody that was supposed to, that came off like a friend to you? I mean, it can happen to anybody. Let me just keep it real with you. It can be your family member, it can be your good girlfriend, it can be your next door neighbor, it can be your own brother, your own daddy. Picture what it's like knowing that somebody who's connected to your child will put them in harm's way. And it's so easy for all of us to say what we can and wouldn't do. But this was a horrific thing. And I feel bad for the parents. I feel bad for the children. I just feel bad. And it took me some time to do this video because this is a hard thing to watch the first time. It was even harder to watch the second time. And what made it harder to watch the second time, because we had to hear about the horrible things that these children went through. Look at little Drake sitting on a table. He went through some things as a baby. 15 years old. I hate to tell people like, oh, 15, you grown. You still a teenager. No matter where you live at in the world, you do not have a lot of things that you need to really survive in this world. And it was very hard to hear, see, and watch. And we had another child star, Jeanette McGurdy. She was abused by her mother. Jeanette was verbally abused by Dan Schreiner. Nickelodeon, after finally waking up after 100 years, I'm making a joke, it ain't been 100 years, but after going through all these things with this young boy and all the things that happened, they finally woke up and said, you know what? We got to put our foot down on some things. And it's just so sad. It was after what Drake went through and all the other kids went through. I'm going to be honest with you. Part of me feel like Drake wasn't the only one. It's just that he was the only one that spoke. And I'm not talking about the Nickelodeon kids, okay? I'm just talking about in general. And I'm just talking about, like, how do you handle that as a child? And thank God for Jeanette. Jeanette went and got therapy, and she wrote a bestseller. So if any of you guys go online and type in her name, Jeanette McGurdy, and find her book on Amazon, and I encourage you to purchase her book because I'm going to buy her book and I'm going to read it because she refused to talk about Dan Schreiner on the special because she wrote a book about him and everything she went through on her Nickelodeon years. And when they show videos on the old episodes of all that and other shows, Victorious and things like that, the things that they had those kids doing, those was adult jokes. Ariana Grande, you had her hanging upside down up there pouring water on herself on the bed. What are we doing? This is not a rock video. These are children. And I can understand why Jeanette didn't want to do another video, didn't want to talk about him online. She said her interviews, she said her piece, and Jeanette did what she had to do. And Jeanette wrote that book. And it was very uncomfortable to see a lot of things and images posted online and videos posted online about what happened at Nickelodeon. And I honestly still feel that justice wasn't served for these children because guess what? A lot of things are still happening. And that's how I feel about that. So let's go to part two, the Me Too movement. Dan Schreiner, like I told you, had did so many things to his female writers until it was enough now. Thank God for the Me Too movement. So, did you know Dan Schreiner used to show pornography to the female staff on set until one of the writers had said she wondered what had happened in the office with little Amanda Bynes. A lot of things that he did was questionable about his relationship with Amanda. Never said anything came out. I just said questionable. And I'm not accusing him. It was said on the ID channel. Okay? Like I said, thank God for the Me Too movement. Dan Schreiber, I hope I've been saying his name wrong all video. Forgive me, okay? And the executives learned what they must have known was going on for a long time. Did you know that he had two female workers as writers and made them split their salary against the law? Thank God one of them contacted the Writer Guild. They had to go and file a complaint in a lawsuit. He had to pay $7 million after being reported in the lawsuit. He asked Christy right here to act out that she was being S in the writer's room full of men and with the other female writer. Notice I said there was only but two female writers. He asked her to perform that she was being S. This is why, and one of the most important reasons, ladies and gentlemen, that the Me Too movement is important because a lot of companies, especially in Hollywood, need to be checked. And you know what? I thank God for that movement because it got some of them in a chokehold. Christy got fired for taking 2 days off. She never had time off as a writer. She only took 2 days off because she had her friends coming from out of town. For taking those 2 days off, she got fired and she was okay with it. She went to a temp agency. Dan Schreiner was known for antagonizing and demoralizing the women staff. He was a mean person, honey. People were afraid of him. Jenny sued Storybrooke Productions and Dan Schreiber and received the settlement, like I told you, for $7 million. Jenny was the other female writer, and she was left alone. She said it ruined her career. He was the golden child, Nickelodeon, and I like to call the king. One editor said that she worked from 8 a.m. to 12 midnight every day. And when she finally, one day, it was so bad, she had to go to the hospital. And instead of asking she was okay, she heard someone say, "So, how are we going to finish it? Who's going to wrap this up?" And she said, before she knew it, she yelled, "I'll be back." What the hell? Well, she came back, and what she never did, he antagonized the staff. He sexualized the young girls. He had a foot fetish, everybody. If you don't believe me, go watch the videos. Go watch the documentary and you will see he had a foot fetish. He had the girls up there getting foot massages on tape and it was showed on the episodes. Let me tell you what this person did. Dan, good old Dan. After the videos came out and after the public started having outcry and outrage, and thank God for social media, he's going to finally say his apologies. He apologized. You are disgusting. And guess what, everybody? Not everyone accept his apologies. And kick Roxanne. Once again, thank you everybody for giving me a chance. And stay tuned and listen to the end of this video when you hear what the victims say in their own words.
Peanut butter one, so I had to be submerged in peanut butter. That was weird. But then the dogs come, I'm laying on the ground, and then the dogs, they gotta lick peanut butter off my body. That sounds like some kind of awkward fantasy from some freaky dude. It was really uncomfortable. I didn't like that.
And when you question it, it's like, but it's normal, isn't it? Right? He's beginning to teach the parents this is normal.
I didn't need to have dogs lick the peanut butter off. Jack didn't need to be submerged in a pool of worms. I don't think that any of that was necessary.